Hello everyone, my name's Tom, I'm from Bedshed Nunawading, and I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks on how to assemble the Logan Lift Up. This also applies to a range of the lift ups we have. So any tips that I give you now, you can also apply to the Vogue or the Universal Lift Up as well. At the end of the day, I highly recommend still looking over the instructions, because that will give you a better idea of what the finished product will look like. So everything I say today are just tips that you can use when you're assembling to just better the process. But if you get stuck, always go back to the instructions. So first things first, what I always recommend is once you've received your product, take everything out of the boxes. That way you can find your parts, your instructions, and have a general idea of how big a space you need for assembling. Once you've done that, go over the assembly instructions, like I've said, get a general idea of what steps to take, but from there are a few tips. So I'll start by showing you the first tip. When you unbox the side rails, I highly recommend that you also unbox the lift up arms. So these metal pieces here that hold your mattress plates, inside those arms you will have little plastic packaging, styrofoam, cardboard. We can use those bits of styrofoam and cardboard as little packers to help us level things out when we're assembling. So the assembly instructions will tell you to build the frame first. And when I say the frame, I mean the headboard, footboard and side rails. But what I like to recommend is actually attaching these metal arms that I've pointed to earlier to the side rails first. That way you're not fighting gravity. So when you unbox everything, lay out the side rails and then lay out your bits and pieces, your screws and your bolts, and attach these side rails first to the metal arms. So from there you can also attach your hydraulic cylinders without worry. And the biggest tip is to use those styrofoam bits and pieces that come with the metal arms as packers to keep this level. So when you're putting the arms onto the side rails, they'll be flat on the floor. To make sure that you're not fighting gravity with the side rails, what you can do is you can put packers on the floor to support these metal arms, and that way everything is straight and in line. From there, you can start building the frame. Now, this is a tip that applies mainly to the Logan. Doesn't really apply to the other lift ups that we have, purely because this one sits flush on the ground. So there are little stoppers on the headboard and the foot, but if you come in here, you'll see that the base plates are sitting flush on the ground. When you put this bed together, you're going to make sure that the frame is loosely fitting. What I mean by that is there are two screws on each corner where the side rails join to the footboard and the headboard. So there's 2 screws here, and on the other side there's 2 screws, and the same applies to the headboard. You want those to be very, very loose. So you've already attached the metal arms to the side rails. Now you're attaching the side rails to the headboard and the footboard, but you want that to be loose. And the reason being is if they're not loose, you can find it very, very difficult to get these base plates in. Once you've got it sitting loose, I recommend putting in the base plates, making sure everything is square, and then tightening it. That way it brings everything together and you can see if there's any overlap in the base plates. If there's overlap, it means you're not straight. From there, it's just a matter of following the instructions. So that means attaching the top plates here and these bottom brackets here. So these bottom brackets run across from metal arm to metal arm. It's as simple as following the instructions, and I do recommend having someone to help you. But the beauty of the Logan over the lift ups is the first plate allows you to screw in the smaller screws towards the very back and hook them onto the middle arm. So the middle arm has a little hole where the screw slots into, unlike here where you have to hold it as you screw it in, but towards the very base, it actually slots in with a screw. So you can use the screw to hold the plate in place while you're getting ready. Yeah, so in terms of tips and tricks, the biggest one is just always go back to the instructions, but to make life a little bit easier, start from the side rails first. Assemble what needs to go on the side rails, use the little styrofoam packets and bits of cardboard that come with it to help elevate it and keep it straight. Then attach those side rails to the headboard and the footboard, and then from there, make sure everything is loose, put in the base plates, tighten everything, and then just follow the instructions.